Hey, how's it going? This is Kevin Samar with Boris FX. Today we're going to take a look at how to recreate one of the shots from the title sequence of the HBO show True Detective. It's a real interesting show with a cool sequence. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend it. And I'm just going to play back real quick so you can get an idea of what we're looking for. It's a reasonably simple effect, but looks pretty cool. So if we just jump into a new project, we can get started. So over here we have a still image from the actual title, and we can see Woody Harrelson here sort of composited with a building or factory-like structure here with a nice textured background, and overall just a pretty cool look. So over here we have a rather dapper looking photo of myself in a similar position. And we got a still image of some power lines or an electric grid facility, and we're going to use that to recreate these buildings here. So first of all, I'm just going to create a new comp. 1920 by 1080 works. I'm going to have a 6-second duration, and I'm just going to quickly name this my main comp. Okay, and I'm just going to drag in my image here, and as you can see it's a lot bigger than our comp, so I'm just going to scale it down to something maybe like 52 or so. That works. And if we take a look at the original again, one of the first things you'll notice is that on the face here he's got this rather dark side over here on the left. So we're going to recreate that first. So I'm just going to start by duplicating the image here. I'm going to apply a BCC levels gamma, which is a nice color filter. And I'm just going to simply lower the gamma to something like 0.5 or 0.54. That looks pretty good. You can see it's real dark here. So I'm then just going to draw a mask. And it doesn't have to be, oops, that's a shape layer there. I'm just going to draw a mask. It doesn't have to be perfect. So we're going to be feathering this, so as long as you get the edges here fairly well. As you can see, got a darker side there. I'm just going to click F, bring out a feather a little bit, something like that. Okay, so now you can see we've got this darker side, and I'm going to grab both of these, and I'm just going to hit Control-Shift-C to pre-comp. I'm going to move all attributes, and I'm just going to call this again man. Okay, so now we've got a nice pre-comp here. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to bring in my power lines image, and I'm going to drop it underneath my pre-comp. And first thing we're going to do is position the power lines sort of how we want over the face. So I'm actually just going to click T to open up the opacity here for my man. I'm just going to drop that for now down to 50% just to give us an idea of where we're at. I'll bring this back to fit, grab my power lines, and however we sort of want, kind of like these structures here. So I'm going to position like this, and then I'm just going to actually bring my opacity back up. In my project window here, I'm going to duplicate my man comp, and I'm going to call this track mat, because we're going to use that as a track mat for the power lines. And I'm going to bring it back down here, and the first thing I'm actually going to do is shut it off. So if I set the track mat of here for the power lines to the alpha mat of the track mat, and I shut off this man here, you can see that the power lines image has taken the shape of the man. So in order to get that to show up like Woody Harrelson here, what I'm going to do is apply BCC linear white then in our transitions category. In BCC 9 there are a lot of awesome transitions with a lot of different possibilities, but for this I'm just going to select linear white and apply it to my man here, and by default you can see that as I scrub from right to left we just have a wipe revealing and taking away the image here. That's set to auto, and I'm actually going to set it to % done. So here you can see our % done is defaults to 50, and the wipe here is in the middle, 50% completed. So to make this look more like the Woody Harrelson wipe, first thing that I'm going to do is grab our direction overlay control here and drag it so we sort of get the same area of the face showing as Woody has. I don't want it to cut off my shoulder there, but I want it to be angled like this, and I'm actually going to bring the % done down to maybe something like 47, just a little bit different, so you can start to see the edge of my nose there. And I'm going to bring up the softness a bit, so you can kind of see the socket of my eye, most of my face. And when we compare to Woody, it's looking pretty good, I think, for now. So the next thing we want to do is to pull out the sky here on our power lines image. So I'm gonna solo that for now, just take a look at it. And we kind of got these gray to blue tones, which is really perfect for a BCC linear Luma key, because we have a lot of dark aspects of the image here and some really light ones that we want to pull out. So Luma key is going to pull a key by luminance, and here by default when we apply it you can see that the key type is set to key out darker, and we're going to switch that to brighter. And right there from the get-go you can see that it's almost a perfect key right there. I'm just going to adjust the threshold a little bit, and if I unsolo my power lines there, you can kind of see that we've got the basic look here of the alpha. I'm actually going to pull down the softness of my man now a little bit, as it seems to be creeping in. Maybe bring this back up to 49 or so. Okay, there we go. The next thing I want to do is, if you've actually seen the title sequence to True Detective, you know that as we look at Woody here, the background or the buildings are panning to the side. So I'm going to go back to my main comp and click P on my power lines to select the position. And on frame 1 I'm just going to click the stopwatch there to keyframe my position, go to the end of my comp, and then I'm going to find a spot that looks good for an end, maybe something like that. We don't want it to go too fast, but okay, that doesn't look too bad. Okay, so the next thing we're going to take a look at is creating the background. So for that I'm just going to hit Control Y and create a new solid. A white solid works perfect. I'm going to drop it to the back of my comp, and I'm going to apply one of my absolute favorite new BCC 9 filters, which is BCC Grunge. I'm going to apply it here to the white solid. And as you can see right away, it brings in a texture, and if we use the drop-down menu in our effect controls, we can see that there are numerous textures that Grunge offers, as well as a variety of parameters to adjust. I'm going to select this subtle Grunge 03 texture, which is it's very nice and subtle. I'm going to turn on color, go into the color options here, and just bring that over to white. So we just have the grayscale, and I'm going to scroll down and go to our mix with original parameter, which is going to toggle how much of the original white solid we bring in. So if I crank that up, you can see the texture just gets a little bit more subtle, just kind of what we want, something like 75. You can see it, but you know, it's not too overbearing. So we'll leave that for now. The next thing I'm going to do is actually select my man and my power lines, and to bring in my power lines I also need to select my track mat, and I'm going to hit Control-Shift-C to pre-comp again, and I'm just going to call this man lines, man with the power lines. So there we have all of that encapsulated in one composition. Now to just to bring out some of the detail here, I'm just going to apply quickly BCC brightness contrast in the color and tone category. So it just applies to all of this, and I'm going to bring down the contrast a little bit because we do have maybe the brightness up. I'll leave the brightness where it's at because we do have, you know, a little bit of a faded look here with Woody, and bringing down the contrast a little bit will just help us achieve that. And again, if we look at it, you can see that we kind of have this purpley blue tone, and fortunately we have a BCC filter that is perfect for that. And first I'm just going to lower this a little bit, maybe -15. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Right here we have BCC Tritone, which is a really useful filter, and what it does is it sets one color value in between black and white and correlates the image accordingly. So I'm going to select, bring my blue up a little bit more of a purpley blue, and kind of bring it down here so it's not quite so saturated. Okay, and if look at that, you know, maybe, yeah, I'm gonna bring that back down, something like that. Change my contrast back. So if you look here again at the original, we're kind of getting a little bit closer. We might be a little bit too purpley there. Kind of bring it down. There we go, something like that. So if you've seen the actual title sequence, you'll know that the clip of Woody Harrelson here is actually video, and they're sort of zooming in and or dollying in and panning slightly around him. But here we're working with a still image, so to create a similar but not exact effect, I'm going to use another BCC filter here in the perspective category, and that's BCC Pan and Zoom, which is a really useful filter for zooming in and creating a lot of different effects on your image. You'll see by default it just kind of zooms all the way in, which is not what we want, but is a good start. So I'm going to take the workflow here and change it from AB auto animation up to just transform A, and you'll see as I click through the timeline now, it has no effect because I need to manually animate the transforms. So I like the position that I'm here at the beginning, composition, so I'm just going to set keyframes here for the scale A parameter and the position A parameter. And I'm going to go to the end of my comp here. I'm going to adjust the scale and bring it up a little bit, like that maybe. Something like, let's try 115. Okay, that looks pretty good, and I'm just going to bring the position down a little bit, just to, we got a little bit of space here. So if I scrub quickly, you can see that it's just a simple zoom, but it really does add a lot to the final result, as you'll see. So if we take another look at Woody here, one of the things we'll notice that we haven't yet reproduced is this sort of glow or blend between the contrast of the very light background and the very dark figure here, and you know, it's a little jarring here to have that such a hard edge, so we definitely want to recreate that. I'm going to start by creating a new adjustment layer, new adjustment layer, and I'm going to apply another very useful BCC filter in the film style category, and that's BCC Fast Film Glow, which creates a lot of really cool effects. And you'll see that when I apply here instantly, you know, we sort of lose our textured background along with a lot of the detail of our power lines here, because the glow is applying to the entire image. And so what we want to do is limit the glow so it sort of applies to his shoulders and just where we want. So I'm going to start by creating just a regular After Effects mask here, and I'm going to draw some points in a general shape like this. We want to keep it out away from the body a little bit, just so when we feather we have some space to do that. So just general shape like that, and you can see right away that you know, we have our background back again. So I'm going to select the adjustment layer, and quickly I'm just going to name this glow so I don't lose track of what it is, and I'm going to click F on the keyboard to open up the mask feather. I'm just going to bring that up a bit, something like that, maybe even a little bit more. So you see now it kind of applies to our shoulders and our suit without bringing out any of the detail of our power lines or background. And I'm actually just going to take a look at this mask real quick. Maybe, oops, don't want to move the whole mask, just this top line, and sort of bringing it up towards my ears. Because if we take a look at Woody, we can kind of see the glow going all the way up there. So that looks pretty good for now. It might be a little intense. I'm going to open up the effect controls and just lower the glow threshold, or sorry, increase the threshold a little bit, pull back. That looks pretty good. So the next thing we want to do is apply the texture that applies over the entire image. And if we take a quick look at Woody again, you'll notice that the texture does not only apply to the background, but he also has, you know, some scratches and whatnot over his suit and his face. So we want to create something similar to that. So again, I'm going to create a new adjustment layer, and I'm going to apply BCC Grunge again down in the stylized category. And I'm going to call this quickly my overlay texture, as it's the texture that will be laying over our entire comp. And I'm going to select this time this black and white grunge here. Sort of this crinkled paper type deal, looks really cool. I'm going to open up this transformation tab, and I'm just going to take the scale and scale it down to something more like 0.8 or maybe 0.75. And this is just so some of these creases here are a little bit smaller and just provide a little bit more detail. I'm also going to shift the position because we can see sort of the repeating texture over here. I'm just going to push it over like this, just so that center has the randomness. And I'm going to go down into opacity here, and I'm going to bring the opacity down real low, maybe to something like 25. If we toggle our texture on and off, you can see on the suit pretty big difference. I'm going to make this something more like 33, 28. That gives us enough texture that we can see it, but it's not overbearing. But we sort of want to separate this texture from the background, so I'm again going to open up the transformation, and I'm going to apply a keyframe to the rotation parameter. And I'm going to go to the end, and I'm going to adjust the rotation here, just a little bit, maybe by say 30 degrees. And if I render here and play back, you'll see that we have this cool rotation movement, very subtle as we zoom in and our power lines move throughout my head. So that really does add a lot. And to finish that up there, I'm actually going to create a third adjustment layer, and I'm going to call this one Vignette. And I'm going to go again up to the film style category, and I'm going to draw out the BCC Vignette filter, which, as you can see, adds a black colored vignette here. I'm going to change the style to both color and blur, so we sort of get these blurred edges here as we move in, and I'm going to bring in the radius, so lower that a little bit, and that's too much. Let's try something like 20, and that's overbearing, but I'm going to bring down the opacity, and that's just to get both the color and the blur a little bit farther in without them being so intense. That looks a lot better. And so one final thing that we might want to add is in the actual title sequence as we pan in on Woody Harrelson. Some text here appears with the title, which looks pretty nice. So I'm going to go step into my man lines pre-comp. Okay, another one here. I'm going to hit Control T to create some new text, and I'm just going to type, I don't know, directed by Jim Jones. There we go, and green is not quite the color we want. I'm going to go for black. Increase the size a little bit. And I'm going to just drop it here. Maybe I'll make it a little bit smaller. There we go. Drop it more somewhere like right here. And again, I'm going to apply the BCC Grunge filter. Again, you can see that the texture here applies to my text, but this time I'm going to utilize some of the parameters in the grunge category rather than the texture. So I'm going to go to transformation, and I'm going to turn opacity down. And what this is going to do is just turn the opacity of the texture down. So I've still got clearly my text here. And I'm going to turn on this parameter called displacement map. And as soon as I turn on displacement map, you'll see that our text looks very grungy, and what's actually happening is here is based on the texture that we now cannot see. It is pushing the pixels of the text based on our texture here in X and Y directions, and this is a little much for me, so I'm going to bring down the amount X and amount Y to about 3. So there you can see we still have this grungy look. You know, I might actually, let's make that 4 just to increase it a tiny bit more. There we go. So that looks pretty cool, and I'm going to close the displacement map category, and I'm going to also turn on what's called erosion. And with erosion, we're going to be eroding away or taking away parts of our element here based on the luminance of our texture. So if I quickly turn the opacity back on for the texture, and I increase erosion, you'll start to see that the darkest areas will start to disappear. And there we can see that. And so if I bring down the opacity of the texture, you'll see that still based on the luminance of the texture, we begin taking away areas of our solid color text. I'm going to make this maybe something, let's try 60, let's try 55. Just enough that you can still read it. What I'm going to do now is actually duplicate my, my text. I'm going to bring number 2 down to the bottom, and I'm actually going to delete the grunge texture off of the bottom layer. Then I'm going to click T, open up opacity, and I'm going to bring down my text to something like 40 or so. And what that allows is us to still see, you know, our textured grungy look, but it enables us to still read the text completely. So if I go back to my main comp, you'll see that our tritone applied also. It's a little dark, so if I go back here and I select our text and I make them perhaps a grayish, there we go. Now where our tritone has a greater effect. You can see that looks pretty cool. Also what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these and I'm going to have them start about halfway in, because that's how it occurs in the actual title sequence. So if I render this again, you'll see that we now have a pretty decent looking animation with our text popping in, and looks pretty cool. It still does look a little dark, so I might go back in my main comp and just maybe again increase the brightness a little bit, and yeah, here we are. So I hope you learned something about a few of our BCC filters and maybe been inspired to create your own True Detective-esque titles. Once again, this is Kevin Samar with Boris FX. Thanks for watching.